Hello, easy peasy English learners. If you want to improve your pronunciation and have an American accent, or if you want to sound like a native speaker, I have some tips for you based on my own experience and observation as a non-native speaker and an ESL teacher for almost 6 years. These tips come from me personally because I see and understand the differences between accents, and I definitely know how to achieve a native-like way of speaking English. So if you're a dedicated English learner and you want to get rid of your accent, stick with me until the end of this video because after watching this, it will feel like a big door has opened towards sounding like a native speaker. Some of the tips are so easy and you've probably never heard or learned them before. Like, you never expected these tips to be so effective. They're small steps, but they have a big impact. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get started. First up, learn all the sounds of the vowel letters. This is what I always tell my students because English letters have different sounds compared to other languages. Maybe some are the same. Like, for example, in the Filipino alphabet, letters like B, L, M, and N are the same. Filipino and English alphabets are pretty much the same, but when it comes to vowels, many English learners around the world don't realize that each English vowel has different sounds. In my native language, we have A, E, I, O, U, just like English, but each vowel has only one sound, as in A, E, O, U. And my Chinese and Taiwanese students, I noticed that they struggle with the long A sound, as in make, cake, plane, because English phonics rules like A don't exist in Chinese. So this rule needs to be taught explicitly. We all have different struggles as non-native English speakers because of the differences between English and our native language. And that's totally normal, but that's not my main focus here. What I really want to emphasize is that A doesn't just sound like A as in car or A as in make. A can sound like car, care, can, call, collect, many, cabbage, and so as other sounds. Okay, now going back to the idea of learning all the sounds of each vowel, A has 5 primary or most common sounds. E has 5 plus a few uncommon ones, and I, O, and U basically have 5 sounds each, not counting the less common ones. So each vowel letter has 5 freaking sounds. Can you believe it? Now, I've made a series of vowel sound videos. Each video covers one vowel and all its sounds, so you won't get overwhelmed. I'll put the link here. If you know how each letter sounds, you'll be able to hear the differences and pronounce the words more accurately. Paying attention to the subtleties in English is a game changer. Step 2, schwa. This is actually part of step 1 because the schwa is a vowel sound and it's the most common vowel sound in the English language, so it deserves a spotlight. I really want to emphasize this sound because it will completely change the way you look at the language. Okay, so as you may already know, the schwa sound goes like and its symbol is an upside down E. Each vowel letter can make the schwa sound just like I discussed in my vowel series. For example, in words like sofa, banana, and again, the letter A is pronounced as sofa. Even if the spelling is A, it sounds like In words like angel and item, the letter E is pronounced as schwa. Look at these words: April, cousin, reason, pilot, cactus, and focus. If what you know is just one sound for each letter, like the in banana, you'll keep saying banana. But let's compare banana versus banana, item versus item, pilot versus pilot, focus versus focus. Do you hear the difference? So, remember, in English, vowels have different sounds, and the way a word is spelled is not always the way it sounds. Also, this is another reason why learning all the sounds of vowels and paying attention to their subtleties is so important. Let's look at another example using A and U. The letter A makes the sound, as in bag, back, ask, cat. The letter U makes the ah sound like in cup, bug, hut, hug. If you don't pay attention or you're not aware of these differences, you might say cap when you mean cup, or you might say cup when you actually mean cap. And that changes the meaning completely. Cap and cup are totally different words. So be careful with these subtle differences in pronunciation. Okay, step 3, the R sound. Native speakers don't roll their R. In words like brain, other, father, mother, forever, if you listen carefully, they don't pronounce R with a strong roll like some non-native speakers do because of their native language. If you're struggling with how to avoid rolling your R, don't worry, it takes time. Even some native English speakers have a hard time learning to roll their R when they study other languages. So it's totally normal to need some practice in the opposite direction. Step 4, flap T. This is extremely important if you want to follow the American accent. Do you hear how Americans say little, bottle, metal? That subtle D sound that kind of sounds like an R, that's called the flap T. But in my experience as an ESL teacher, I later found out that this sound has a name, and it's called flap T, where T sound between two vowel sounds becomes soft and quick, almost like a fast D. For example, in words like butter, better, and city, the T doesn't sound like a strong T. It sounds more like a light D sound. Many learners from different countries don't notice this at first, and that's totally normal. In fact, some of them pronounce the full T clearly, like butter or city, because that's what the spelling shows. But native speakers don't really say it that way in casual speech. So if you're learning English, it's useful to just get used to how words sound in real life, especially when you listen to native speakers in movies, interviews, or podcasts. My point is, you don't always need to memorize every rule. Sometimes just listening more and imitating how people speak can really help. That's actually how I learned a lot of pronunciation naturally, and you can too. Although it turns out that there are rules for it, which is good news if you're not used to it. Just one thing, be careful not to overdo it. You don't want to sound like little or literal. The flap T is supposed to be light and quick, not exaggerated. So don't force it. Just let it happen naturally as you get more used to how native speakers say things. But if you don't want to use it, or you feel like it's not that important, that's totally fine too. British speakers don't use the flap T. They just pronounce the T as it is. Step 5, the Z sound. I'm so excited about this one because it will definitely make your accent and pronunciation sound more like a native speaker. Some words that end in S and others with S in the middle actually sound like Z. Examples include busy, cheese, use, classes, and parties. Hear that? The S sounds like Z. But in words like bus, toss, cross, and missing, the S sound stays the same. It doesn't change to Z. Now, native English speakers don't really think about this when they speak. It just comes naturally to them, just like us in our own native languages. But for us non-native speakers, it's totally normal and actually helpful to know the rules. Don't worry, just like in my vowel series, I'll explain these rules in a separate video. I'll put the link in the description box as soon as it's available. Next is the letter X. Just like how S sometimes sounds like Z, the letter X can also sound like Z in some words. For example, in words like examples, exhausted, and exaggerated, the X sounds like a Z. But not in all cases. In words like excited or X-ray, it sounds exactly how you'd expect, with a clear K and S sound. Excited, X-ray. So again, it depends on the word. Step 7, link the sounds. Just like the flap T, native speakers don't think about any rules when it comes to linking sounds. It just comes out naturally. What I mean is connecting words or sounds. In American English, we don't say words one by one like in the dictionary. We connect them when we speak. That's called linking, and it's a basic part of how people actually talk. Now try saying these phrases at a normal pace. Did you say them like this? Lay out, may I, say it, he ate, she is, we are. There's nothing wrong with that as long as the pronunciation is clear and understandable. But if you really want to sound more natural and speak like a native, you should say lay out, may I, say it, he ate, she is, we are. Do you hear the difference? We're linking the sounds. We're connecting them instead of saying each word separately like lay out. If you're speaking slowly, it's okay to say lay out, but in real conversations or when you're speaking at a natural pace, it should come out as lay out, may I, say it. It's actually very easy to link sounds, but I've seen many students struggle with it. And that's totally understandable because our native languages work differently. But the good news is there are patterns and you can find lots of tutorials online. I can also make one if you want, just let me know in the comments. And remember, the more you listen to native speakers and practice, the more natural it will feel. Eventually, it'll just come out on its own. Last step, reductions. Words like gonna, wanna, and gotta are called reductions. A lot of you might already know these, so you can skip this part. So if you want to sound confident, fluent, and natural, using reductions is one of the must-dos. Native speakers use them all the time in conversations. Going to becomes gonna. Want to becomes wanna. Got to becomes gotta. And that's it. It's simple, but super effective. Just keep listening to how native speakers use them in shows, songs, or real conversations and try using them little by little. Eventually, they'll become part of how you speak too. These tips are what I've really learned from my own experience and observation as a language teacher. I don't just teach English, I also teach Filipino or Tagalog, my native language. And I'm telling you, these tips come straight from me, a non-native English speaker who understands the language well and knows the differences between English and other languages, especially my own. And I understand the struggle. That's why I'm sharing this with you. So make sure to remember these tips and apply them. I'm sure you'll start to sound better or even much better. And don't forget to check out the vowel series videos I made. I'll also add the link in the description box once the video about Z sound rules is ready. Stay tuned. Bye for now and happy learning.